Welcome to episode 10 of the Active Bariatric Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Tirapelli. Today, I'm so excited to chat with Denise Pagano, also known as the Crunchy Sleever on Instagram. Denise became part of the bariatric community after undergoing vertical sleeve gastrectomy in 2018. Determined to come to terms with her why, she embraced therapy and began the deep dive into the echoes of childhood trauma, suffering from undiagnosed anxiety disorder, which would present with eating to cope and secret eating. Establishing cornerstone foundations of dealing with anxiety while losing 110 pounds, she fell in love with bodybuilding with the guidance of her personal trainer husband. She's a fitness and eating skills influencer, encouraging discipline, self-awareness, and establishing lifelong habits. Denise is also a certified wellness and health coach, mother to 2 daughters, and a 25-year beauty industry veteran. Thank you so much for being here today, Denise. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I am thrilled to be here with you, Kim. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, can we start today? Tell us a little bit more about your journey with bariatric surgery, maybe, how it's impacted your life, what brought you to that decision?
Sure. Well, it wasn't a straightforward type of thing. I had first pursued surgery, or just even like thinking about what would be the options for me in 2014. So 4 years before I actually had it done. And that's when I still lived in New York. I'm from Brooklyn, if you haven't gathered yet from the accent. So we lived in New York. I was born and raised there. And I went to Langone, top place in New York City. And I kind of started the process. It was a little bit slow, a little bit here, put your deposit and little things like that. And then I got to the point of the psychiatric evaluation. And I was 100% honest. I was almost kind of like, I dare you to accept me kind of a thing. Like, if you say
Yeah.
I can have this, then this is a whole bogus thing. And you just line people up to have surgery, just to have surgery, and you have no care about their psychological well-being. And I was 100% honest with her, and she was really sweet. But at the end of everything, she said, well, I really don't think that you're ready for this, and I'm going to have to deny you at this point. And I was kind of happy and sad at the same time. So happy that they were honest and they had my well-being in mind, that, not just going to cut me open and good luck to you. But it left me with like a clear confirmation of sorts that I had things to take care of mentally and emotionally before I underwent a big surgery like that. So I allowed 4 years of really getting my crap together, so to speak. What really impacted me was looking at my finances, and I read Dave Ramsey's book, Baby Steps, and looking at my finances and debt really helped me switch like that physical focus and more of the external things that were ruling my life. So food purchasing and secret eating and all of that stuff is going to add up also with the bank account. And I just kind of like sat back and said, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much money on just like food. So that just the financial aspect of it made me really take a pause and like look at it and be like, I have to do some real correcting here of habits and how I'm coping with things. So that was kind of like the beginning of the path. Once I moved in 2016 or something like that, I moved to North Carolina where I had my surgery. Ultimately, I decided to undergo therapy, and I sought out specifically with a therapist that dealt with eating disorders. I wouldn't say I categorically had an eating disorder. I just used food is what I know I did. I never would say I binged or like ate a whole anything. I've never eaten a whole anything in my whole life, a whole pizza. I've never eaten a whole cake or any of that. I just ate a bunch of things like this. So, so a year and a half of therapy, and I felt I was mentally ready and able. I knew that anxiety was the trigger for me and developed coping skills beforehand. So then I went to my first consult, And it all started from there. So even when I started to go for that first consult, I was very focused on the outcome, and I took care of X, Y, and Z as far as mentally, and that was also growing, and I'm learning, and it kind of evolved along with me with surgery, but at least I knew my trigger. I think that was very key for me, and getting a handle of that.
Sure.
Yes, so that was like the beginning. I knew that this was a tool that was going to help me. Also, my GYN, my
Right.
gynecologist, encouraged me to have weight loss surgery. I have PCOS. I had a lot of issues
Oh, yeah.
with my uterus and polyps and like all of this stuff. So he said, people have a lot of success with it. It really helps reset your hormone level and all of that stuff. So I was like, okay,
Right.
let's try it.
Yeah. We're doing it. Yeah. And did you feel like that work that you put in ahead of time, both mentally as well as, making changes to, your nutrition and things like that? I mean, how have you feel like right now? You feel like that was a necessary step and that you're glad that you went through those extra, several years of kind of going back to the basics and figuring out what's going on with your habits and how to address those things?
Absolutely. It is, I would say, the cornerstone of the success that I have now, almost 5 years out. If I
Mhm.
wouldn't have addressed that, doesn't matter how micro I make my stomach, because if I don't understand the emotions that I'm going through every day that we have, how am I
Yeah.
going to? I was just had such a fear that I was going to bust my stomach open. Like if I even
Right.
dare like overeat, what's going to be like? I'm gonna have sepsis. And like, well, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna hurt myself. So having that legit
Sure.
fear of like hurting my stomach internally was really a deterrent. And like, listen, if you're going to do this, you better get yourself a good baseline and skills
Yeah.
on how to handle those moments where usually you would handle with a food response. Not every feeling you
Right.
have deserves a food response. And that's something that it took a long time to like get into the habit of pausing when you have something.
Yeah.
My thing was anxiety. It was a procrastination, confusion,
Mhm.
not being sure, indecisiveness. All of those emotions that come up through the day would immediately need a food response to cope with instead of dealing with what
Right.
was at hand. So I literally would have to pause and then have to say to myself, okay, I'm feeling this feeling. What can I fix it right now? Is there something I could do? Can I change it? Or, am I forecasting doom for the future, the things that haven't even happened yet? And usually the answer is no, I can't do anything about any of these things. So then
Right.
if I can't change it, then that doesn't give me an excuse to treat my body as a garbage can. It doesn't give me an excuse to abuse
Yeah.
my body because this thought has intruded. And it took a
Mhm.
very long time to get in the habit of pausing. Pausing is a skill in itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so powerful and such an important piece of advice to, to give to folks. And I know that that worked for you and everyone will have different ways, but it sounds like those you utilized and learned from the therapy and things like that, the coping skills that you used basically instead of utilizing food to cope, you take a pause, you think about, why are you
Mhm.
feeling that way? And then you address it with something else than, getting something
Right.
to eat,
Or
so to
if it is
speak.
something that I could address, then I will make a plan to fix it or deal with it.
Yep.
I'm very sensitive
Yep.
to my environment. I have to make sure I don't have a lot of clutter. I don't like a
Hmm.
lot of pictures around, or it's like certain things, like certain decorative things are
Yeah.
fine. But like if I'm in a very busy like area, that can trigger me. So it's important to
Hmm.
recognize what those are and not be like sad
Sure.
about it. It's just like recognize I'm like, okay, well that's just how I work. This
Yeah.
is just how I am. But also with with the pausing and coping, because I had dealt with the financial part of it too in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of like helped twofold. It's like now I don't have like a shopping thing anymore. Like some people will have like transfer
Right.
addiction, they'll start shopping, or they have to find something.
Totally.
It really forced me to deal with it and not shift to
Yep.
another thing to
Yep.
to numb
Oh,
it.
gosh, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and let's talk about, so was one of the ways that you, especially after you've had the surgery, I know I follow you on Instagram, and I love seeing all of the fitness posts and things like that you share with your exercise journey. Was that something that when you had your surgery, where you like kind of have you changed in terms of the goals that you had when you had the surgery, and what you saw, in terms of what you wanted to get out of the surgery versus where you're at now? You're working out a lot more. Has that kind of changed and grown over time since you had surgery? Did you envision that you'd be where you are now in terms of lifting and bodybuilding?
No, I didn't. I'm very fortunate to be married to a personal trainer. He's been a certified personal trainer for 20 years. Um, he has never made me feel less than, no matter how big or how small I have been. He's always encouraged me to,
Sure.
have movement. But it's you're married, and it's like I don't want to listen to you, and
Right.
I don't want you telling me what to do. It's kind of like that. But when I had surgery, and I knew the plan that I wanted to adopt. I knew what I wanted to do. I had a vision of what I wanted to look like. And that vision, I had to say to myself, well, what does that person do to look this way? And is
Right.
that something I can achieve? So in the beginning, it was really
Mhm.
trying to prove to myself that I can, you know. I
Right.
always told myself I couldn't for so many years. I was a professional quitter. I was the best at quitting.
Mhm.
So I didn't
Oh.
want to employ that position anymore, and I just wanted to see what I
Yep.
can do. And he wrote out a plan according to which stage I was after surgery. We took it really slow,
Mhm.
and we did what my
Yep.
surgeon said I was able to do. So I would say had surgery in August. I would say I started to really ramp up um, lifting weights more in January. So that's like 4 months later.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yep.
committed in the beginning to walking 10,000 steps for 5 days a week. Not every single day,
Mhm.
and I kinda had to work my way up to that, but I thought that that was fair, and, it's something
Yep.
that was doable. So, I made
Yep.
sure I walked every single all those 5 days, and I would bundle up, I'd go outside and do it, and I made the commitment, and that really helped me, set a standard of commitment keeping, even
Mhm.
if my family was home, and, "Oh, you're gonna leave us?" And, "Yes, I have to. I'm sorry, but you
Right.
have to understand mommy
Yep.
has to do this right now." And my kids are older, it's not like they're
Yep.
babies, but we're very close, and we huddle together, and, I'm like,
Yeah.
"I
Hang
have to
out.
do this,
Sure.
I'll be back in an hour, and then everything will we could do whatever it is that you gotta do."
Yeah.
I
Back to
had
life.
to
Yeah.
keep my promises to myself, so walking, just keeping that walking commitment was amazing. So in the beginning, we developed a plan, and then I just trusted it in the beginning. I was just like, all right, let's see what happens.
Mhm.
And then once you see results, once I started to
Yeah.
see my body change and shift, I never thought in a million years I would have muscular arms. Never, because they were bigger, and they were not to the picture
Sure.
that they are today. The second I started to
Sure.
see some muscular development, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is working.
Yeah.
So if I stick with this, you
Right.
mean it might be possible." So, in January of 19 is when I ramped up my training. I started 5 days a week. I had a 5-day split with the walking, and
Mhm.
it totally transformed my body while losing weight,
I
in
love
a
that.
huge deficit thanks to
Right.
surgery.
Right.
And
Right.
now,
Yeah.
5 years later, I don't do 5 days a week anymore. Um, it's not possible for me to do that with my schedule right now, but I do 3 to 4 days a week, and I walk when I can. I try to get in 10,000 steps,
Sure.
as often as I can. But I don't do
Sure.
nearly as much cardio now than I did in the beginning. I used to do a lot of cardio. I ran a lot along with
Mhm.
training,
Mhm.
and
Right.
that changed my body, and it totally uh, erased my butt. So
Oh, you're
yeah,
like,
I was
"I
like,
want that. I want,
um,
yeah, some
whoops.
definition."
Yeah.
Come back to me now. So did you, and so like right now, for example, versus when you started, you lift heavier, like so that you don't have to lift so many days, you're lifting heavier when you're there. Like, would you say like you go for an hour? Kind of give us some info on
So
what do you
now
do
I
now when
usually
you're lifting?
lift about 90 minutes a session.
Hmm.
I am not in any
Great.
hurry. I don't rush through. I don't do like weird stuff during rest. I rest during rest.
Yep.
Um, and I'm very careful. I have like a phobia about my knees. I don't want to hurt my knees. I just don't want to get hurt. Who does? But I'm
Right.
super cautious.
No.
Um, so every 6 weeks, I get a new training plan, a new training split. I record my workouts. I send them to my trainer, my husband, and he will correct me and he'll give me form. Let's work on this. Let's work on that. And
Sure.
night and day from the beginning to now, for sure. But
Right.
uh, yeah, I lift heavy. So in the beginning, we really focused on
Yeah.
progressive overload. That's what we really focused
Hmm.
on. A lot of compound
Yep.
movements in the beginning, when I was bigger and we wanted to stay safe so that I didn't hurt myself. Um, my
Hmm.
Bulgarian split squats in the beginning were literally me holding his hands and
Yeah.
doing it with no weight. To fast
Yeah.
forward, I'm holding 220s doing Bulgarian split squats, and it's just the progression
Yeah.
is unbelievable.
Totally. And what have you seen has been kind of the biggest benefits that you've seen from lifting since you had
I'd
surgery?
have to say, besides the physical part of it, my posture. My
Mm.
posture has
Yep.
improved dramatically. I used to have that hump behind my back, my neck.
Hmm.
It was really bad.
Sure.
It's not there
Yeah.
anymore. It's totally gone.
Oh, that's
And to
awesome.
me, I mean
Yeah.
when the posture part of it is not just having good posture, it gives you that it's a confidence. Okay, when you walk into the room, you can
Yep.
hold your head up high. You don't feel like you're cowering down, and your shoulders are rounded forward. It says something. You're making a
Right.
statement when you walk
Yep.
into a room, and it just goes along with my whole attitude. Like, even when I was in a larger body, I still had confidence. I still had good self-esteem. It's just everything else is just right there with it as well. Like, it all goes together. So definitely a
The whole.
posture. My balance is improved dramatically, absolutely
Hmm.
dramatically. My mobility is
Yep.
greater. I'm very big on hip mobility and um,
Hmm.
strengthening your muscles that support and surround your hips, because my parents have broken a lot of their lower extremities as they got older.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to go down that road too. So my mobility has improved, my endurance,
Right.
strength, obviously, bone health, and
I love it.
um, the development of muscle, which help. I know some
Hmm.
people get afraid, like, I don't want to be too bulky, and I don't want to be, but
Right.
but
I
it's
know.
like
It's like, no,
I'm not.
do
It's gonna
it.
be okay. You're not gonna look like a man. You're not
Yeah.
gonna look like you're gonna be on the Mr. Olympia stage or anything like that. But when you develop
Right.
muscle,
Right.
you're filling in the loose skin. Like, if you have, we all have loose skin, as much as you can. All right,
Yep.
I still have, but it's better than if I didn't have
Right.
that in there. Those
Yep.
were the
That's
major
so true.
ones for me.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah. I know I do hear that too. And it's just something that I think hopefully we're getting more and more out there, especially within our bariatric community, that lifting weights, when you're cleared to do so is such an important piece because like those things that you mentioned, all of those things, like you said, do prevent injuries and things like that down the road. We don't want to be slipping and falling or can't get out of a chair, where you're so tight. All these things are going to help to strengthen, balance, like you said, the posture, and that improves the confidence. I love all those things that you mentioned. I think they're so true. And the benefits are really, I mean, they're endless. I mean, it just helps in so many different ways. And I wanted to ask you, how did you adapt your nutrition to fuel these workouts? Like, what have you done kind of over time to maybe change the nutrition to match more of what you're doing?
Well, to be honest, it was very difficult. Very, very difficult because nobody in this space, now you're in this space, and I think when I first saw you, I messaged you. I was like, "Oh my God, I
You
wish
did.
you were around years ago because there is no information for a bariatric athlete, or a bariatric lifter
Right.
or bariatric runner or whatever
Right.
active, how to
Yep.
do that when you have goals in mind, but you don't want to deplete yourself because you're already in a deficit and you have these ideas
Hmm.
of what you want to look like, but if you look at a regular bodybuilder, their diet, there's no way you can actually
No, you
can't
can't do it.
intake any of that. So it was a lot of playing around with different things. I knew I had to keep my fat grams relatively low, and for me, it's just,
Yeah.
but in the bodybuilding world, if you look at their nutrition, it's usually lower fat and they utilize carbs for
Yep.
their fuel. So protein
Hmm.
focus, I try to increase it as much as I can, and carb
Right.
was increased for as much as I can according to how far out I was at the time. So
Sure.
I never pushed it. Even when I had numbers, I had my macros, I had all of this stuff. Rule number one, if I can't eat anymore, I'm not eating anymore. I'm not hitting any
That's it. It's
number.
over. Hmm.
My hunger was
Smart.
the rule. If I'm not hungry,
Yeah. The
I
driving
am not
factor.
I am not force feeding myself because when I would create a
Right.
whole other issue for what?
Issue.
Yeah.
100%. Gosh, I'm so glad that you said that because that is something that I tell to my clients when we're changing their calories and we're increasing is I'll say, listen, we may have this magical number that, is the perfect calculation, whatever. If you can't eat it because you're full, the meal's over. That's it. And that's okay. That is okay. This is an adjustable thing and we have to find out what works best for you. And what I always tell folks too is that, your gains are not going to be, comparable to someone who hasn't had that restrictive part of the surgery because they can eat more. And so they're going to see gains sooner because they have more energy intake, whereas we don't. So it is something that you have to kind of be patient with and make changes slowly over time. And I just appreciate what you're saying because you just have to kind of figure out what works for you. And when you're done, you're done. Stop
Yeah,
the meal.
that's
That's
it.
it.
I'm always like, wrap it up, put it for later. I mean, because you probably get
It's
hungry in
right.
2 hours or so. I mean, I know I could eat every 2 to 3 hours. So I don't think there's anything
Sure.
wrong with that. Some people are like, oh, you should only have this
No.
many meals. I'm like, why? Well, if it's the
Yeah.
it's the same calories for the day. What does
Yeah.
it matter where it's being used? Like if my body's telling me I'm
Yep.
hungry, then I have to eat. And even if it's 2 bites, great. Then put it down, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. That's
So
right. Yep.
so that was a big deal. And then uh, really shifting from the use of protein drinks to actually eating food really helped with being more
Oh, that's
satiated
awesome.
and chewing.
Yep.
Like I would tell my friends, and they're like, "Oh, I'm really hungry," or they would say to me like, "I'm hungry all the time." I'm like, "Well, tell me what you're having," and it's like, "Oh, a protein shake for this and a protein shake for that." I'm like, you know, if you actually chew your food, it helps and it sends different messages to your
Yeah.
brain that you're eating
Yes.
something, and it's a different chemical
Eating and food is
response
coming.
and to your stomach. Like it's all like it yeah, you could drink your protein, and that's fine when you're in a pinch for sure. But I prefer to
Yep.
eat it, and it doesn't always happen, but I prefer, and that helped a lot with
Sure.
making balanced meals. So when I would sit down for a meal,
Mhm.
I'd make sure I have a protein, a fat, and a carb, not just one
Yep.
only, one or one more of the
One
other,
thing,
just try to
right.
make it more balanced. And then I would, and then I started supplementing with creatine. That came a little bit later, but that really helped with
Mhm.
muscle development too.
Sure. Yeah. Do you take about 5 grams a day? What's your
I
dose?
recently lowered it to 3 because I read recently
Okay.
that 3 is recommended for women. I don't know, but I'm trying it.
Yeah.
I'll try it.
Yeah, 3 to
Yeah.
5 grams. 3 to 5 grams. You can even do it by weight too. But honestly, if you've been taking it for a long time, it's like if you're doing a daily dose of about 3 to 5 grams, that's what the research has shown to saturate the
Mhm.
muscle tissue. And then if you just keep taking it as a maintenance dose, it keeps that muscle then has that creatine as an energy source to create, ATP, which allows our
Yeah.
muscles to move. If you have that as an energy source there, you're going to be able to do more
Mhm.
repetitions and see
Mhm.
more gains. And so I'm so glad that you're taking that. It's a great supplement. I just was talking about that last week. In fact, I did an episode on
Mhm.
plant-based nutrition and how specifically vegetarians and vegans like literally aren't getting any creatine in their diet from their intake. And the average intake is about 1 to 2 grams a day from food. If you're not eating any animal proteins, you're not getting it. So, especially those of you that are out there with muscle gain goals, creatine monohydrate is a really good, very well researched. It is the number one most researched supplement
Mhm.
out there. And they're just learning more and more
Mhm.
about it. So for bone health, brain health, all kinds of things. So
Yeah.
good for you. So you found that was
Yeah,
helpful as well.
definitely. Absolutely. So, just
Hmm.
kind of making I feel
Hmm.
like I'm always a science project. I'm like in the lab always just trying
Yeah.
like different things, and to be in that um state of mind, like to be in that mindset, to be
Right.
forgivable in
Sure.
results. All right, so this didn't work. All right, so let's just shift.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Where before you
Yeah.
just throw the whole towel in and, well, this doesn't work, so that's it. Might as well stop.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
we don't work that way
Yeah.
anymore. We just don't.
Yeah. You're constantly problem solving. See what's the next thing? Okay, this didn't work. Toss it out. New thing. And it sounds like it's helpful too that you have your husband who's able to help adapt your workouts too.
Yeah,
That sounds really
absolutely.
helpful.
He's I'm definitely spoiled.
Yeah.
Definitely spoiled. And I drive him crazy.
well, Uh, well, I'm sure he likes seeing all your progress, though. That's kind of cool. That's a cool thing to have in the relationship too. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, when he would write my plans, I didn't really I never questioned my plans, and I would just do what it says.
Sure.
And after the first year, and I was very, very lean and had no booty, and my lower body was very lean. Um, I just follow. I was like, listen, and we got to fix. He's like, we have to fix this. We have to fix this. He's like, first of all, stop
Yeah.
running. That's number one. And
Number
we
one.
got to focus more on lifting heavy. I was like, okay, fine. And soon
Sure.
enough, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, taking your before and afters, and I'm like, oh, I got my butt's coming back. He's like, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, why do I have glutes 3 times a week? He's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. just do
Just
it.
do it.
I'm like, all right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we are. Oh, I love that. And so like just cuz I get a lot of questions I think again everybody's different, but what do you eat for example maybe pre and post workout, just if you don't mind sharing, cuz I think that's a question with like timing and for folks that work out early in the morning and getting up and like I have to separate my food and drink by 30 minutes. I just had some discussion on my Instagram like a week ago about this very topic. I was just curious if you don't mind sharing, what do you typically kind of do around your workouts or during
Yeah.
the day?
So if I'm working out in the morning, I try to wake up like 2 hours beforehand, and ideally
Mhm.
move my bowels before I go to the gym. That is like score. Yes,
Sure.
that's like hallelujah.
Do it.
Doesn't always
It's a
happen,
good
but
start to the day.
so just kind of get going. I'll have my coffee, and then I'll have like
Mhm.
maybe 20 grams of carbs. I'll have an egg,
Mhm.
maybe with an egg white with it, like a
Yep.
mega egg. I'll make a mega egg, and then
Sure.
some sort of low fat um, protein with it. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'll have like 1 or 2 turkey sausages, or if I really want to amp up my
Mhm.
protein, I'll make I'll take like a slice and a half of turkey breast, like deli I
Mm-hmm.
get the low sodium one because I'm super
Yeah.
sensitive, and I'll just make a big omelet with that,
Sure.
and I'll have like my
Yeah.
toast and a big thing of that, and that
Yep.
make sure I eat it. Maybe I don't finish it all. I wrap it up, put it away, and but that really sets me up for a good workout. If I feel like I have a
Yeah.
really heavy leg day that day, then I'll have like a bigger carb meal beforehand because I really feel a
Mm-hmm.
difference when I have more carbs before I have to lift really heavy. It's like a
Sure.
superfood. You
Yep.
you like tap into this like hidden like mega strength like out of nowhere. You're like, where's this coming
Yes.
from? I'm like, oh
Yes.
my gosh, I had oatmeal. Okay,
I've
great.
got
Now I can lift
Yeah.
this.
No, that's awesome. I love that you're saying this. This is awesome because I get so many folks that are scared of carbohydrates, and I get it because obviously especially in that first year when we're really focused on just like that protein, but for those of you that are exercising more, this is such helpful information. So thank you so much because I know I say it and then folks kind of look at me like, "Oh, she's a dietitian. She's just saying I got to eat
Right,
carbs,"
right.
but it does help so
It really does.
much.
When people
Love
say
that.
think carbs, they're missing the other part of the carbs that they usually used to eat, and it's usually this high carb, high
Yes.
fat. If you're gonna have high carb,
Yes.
high fat,
Yeah, or simple
there's
sugars.
other things going along with that little vehicle of carbohydrate. You're taking high fat
Yes.
on the ride of that carbohydrate meal. When you take that high
Right.
fat option off, right?
Away.
Are you gonna eat just the plain baked potato? Is that gonna set your heart on fire? No, it's just regular. It's just carb. Are you gonna eat just is sweet potatoes?
Right.
You dreaming? Who's dreaming of sweet potatoes? Nobody, I don't think. You
Not
know,
very many. Not
but
very many.
sweet potato
Right.
with like tons of butter in it and like sugar and all that. Oh, then everyone's happy with that. But we're not talking about
Right.
like a pimped out carb. Like those are pimped carbs, and
Right.
that's not
Right.
what we're talking about. We're not talking about slices of pizza. We're not talking about
No.
bagels with loads of cream cheese and all this other stuff. It's
Right.
half of the story. So you can't
Yeah.
ignore
No.
the other things that usually go on to carbs that people associate it with. And I think that's the misconnect. People
Right.
get so scared. I'm like, one piece of toast, with an egg on top is nothing.
Exactly. Yes. I couldn't agree with you more. I honestly, I don't. I've been seeing some kind of trend with different reels about like they tell you not to do this, but they tell you can't have a piece of bread or a banana or something. And it's like it's true because there's that misconception out there that the only way to be successful in weight loss in general, regardless if you've had surgery or not, is you have to go super low carb. And I just don't buy into that, especially if you're exercising. You need that carbohydrate. It is fueling your muscle so that you can repeat that motion and exert that force and be able to burn more calories. If you're so depleted and not eating any carbohydrates, you're going to have a crap workout. And when you go, a month of it going, why am I not seeing any change or gains or loses any weight or anything like that? It's because you're not fueling properly to do that
Yeah.
exercise. So thank you so much for sharing that. I
Oh
really
yeah, no,
appreciate
it's
that.
that's how my surgical team. Thank God I had a great team and a great nutrition program that when I first went
Sure.
in, I was like, oh, so I get the surgery and then I'm just gonna do like keto or I'm gonna be intermittent fasting. Sorry, if you keto, I
Right.
understand. If
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
whatever, don't listen. Do you?
yes.
If you like it, cool. It's great.
Don't at me.
But
Yeah.
my team said,
Yes.
"Oh, no, 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 no. You are not doing that. You're going to learn
Right.
how to eat from each
Right.
food group and you're going to learn how to eat for the rest of your life." I was
Absolutely.
like, "Oh, okay." I thought we were going to,
Yeah.
continue playing games, but okay, fine. You know.
Right.
But the thing and also with carbohydrates and including them and deciding to pursue weightlifting, there it is really like it comes
Hmm.
in stages because you personally have to
Hmm.
feel comfortable eating those foods. Sometimes, I mean, I couldn't eat rice for a very long time,
Absolutely.
and I was like, oh,
Sure.
this is not digesting well. So I had to wait
Right.
on certain things to include. Now I can eat everything, but in the early, I ate
Sure.
what I was comfortable eating, what as far as
Yeah.
going down. And then there's foods where like eventually, you can, include later on. And if it's going to trigger you,
Sure.
if there's a food there that you used to use, if there's a food there that you used to abuse, you have to be careful. And don't listen
Yeah.
to Sally, this one or that one. Oh, you got to use it or you can't. That's for them. And you have to stay what's true to you. And if you're not ready to have it, then don't. It doesn't mean it's gone
Yeah.
forever.
I
It's
totally agree.
just for right now, it's not part of your plan. And you have to be gentle with
Yeah.
you. And once you are ready and let go, whatever that food has its power over you, or sometimes people
Yeah.
hold this certain value to a food that they use because it did something for them other than nourish. You
Sure.
can't
Right.
push that. You have to wait and be patient.
Mm-hmm.
But it eventually will
Mm-hmm.
happens. I don't know when because that all depends.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Everybody's different. Yeah, that's such a good message. I agree with you. That kind of ties into my next question, which is, what have you seen as some of your biggest mindset shifts that you've experienced over the surgery, but really that you have seen help you the most to be successful?
Um, hmm. So I think just in the beginning, it was really um, staying committed to the promises that I made,
Hmm.
and
Sure.
developing the discipline that I didn't have in my life at all. So
Hmm.
discipline and commitment come up every single day, right? And there's some points in the beginning where you really have to push through so you can show that you can do it. And then at some point, you have to say, well, um, my foot hurts. This, I didn't sleep really well. I didn't eat great. Then there's other elements that come in where that's the balance that so many people talk about. Balance, balance. Okay,
Sure.
so it's not all or nothing anymore. It's now, okay, I've proven to myself that I'm able to keep these commitments because I've been able to do so for this last, whatever year or 3 months or 4 months. But
Yeah.
this situation has come up. So now you have to see where it needs fluidity, like, and then you can put in some
Hmm.
reason. I have to always still check to make sure, is this an excuse? Am I just being lazy?
Yeah.
But when there's valid
Yeah.
things coming up where you just can't do it, then you have to honor that. And the
Right.
biggest mindset shift was, we'll do it tomorrow. It's fine. We'll just pick up where
Hmm.
we're at
Hmm.
tomorrow. No, nothing's going to happen. It doesn't mean I failed. It doesn't mean, oh, I'm going down
Hmm.
the road again, because that's how my mindset used to be.
Right.
You miss one day and it's
Sure.
like, oh, then you start doubting and all these other things. And it's just not part of my agenda anymore.
Hmm. I love that. No, I appreciate that because I think everyone's going to have different, how they feel from where they had the surgery versus things that they've, how they think about things, how they process things, how they, just everything. And our lives change each day and there's different things that pop up and stressors and the holidays. We're in the holidays, right now,
Yeah.
which is
Hmm.
crazy. And I just appreciate that because, let's see, you had surgery in 2018. So, you're 4 years post-op. And I just think that's really helpful advice for folks that are maybe starting out and, just things that have helped you. And that's kind of what I also wanted to ask you is what have been some of the lessons that you've learned, good or bad, that you feel like have really helped you along the way?
Um, in the beginning, in the beginning, when you're losing weight in that honeymoon stage where it's literally Christmas every morning, I was the type of person that weighed myself every day. Um, And I
Sure.
still weigh myself every day. I'm That's my thermometer. That's my barometer, and that's like
Hmm.
my truth button, right? It doesn't send
Yeah.
me. It doesn't
Yeah.
make me upset. It just That's my internal temperature for the day, and it just says, "Hey, this is data. This is what's going on."
Yep.
I really learned how to understand my body by trending my data and not making it
Hmm.
emotional. I knew that I was doing everything possible to lose the weight, And I had to understand how my body responds. That was the biggest key was, okay, if I eat something, let's say if I have pickles, let's just say, I
Yeah.
know I'll have a spike on the scale the next day because of the high sodium content, right?
Sure.
If
Yep.
I don't sleep very well or if I don't have a bowel movement, I will see it on the scale,
Yep.
and it's not, oh, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Or another lesson that I learned in the beginning wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating enough,
Mm-hmm.
and the scale wasn't moving. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What is happening?
Yep.
And then it made me pause and be like,
What happened?
you know what? I burned 600 calories. I'm only eating 800.
Yep.
Did I even eat 800 calories
Yep.
yesterday? No. My
Right.
body's like, too bad, honey. We're not letting go any of this because you're not feeding us.
That's right.
So that gave me an
Right.
education of, oh, okay, if I'm going to expend all of this energy, I have to replenish. I really have to make sure
Yep.
I eat. So I learned so much, and I learned that with all the losses that
Mm-hmm.
I experienced in the past, you would, let's say, go to your Weight Watchers meeting, right? And you get on the scale and you lose your
Sure.
your 2 pounds or whatever for the week, and you're like, sweet, going to McDonald's right now, and I'm going to go have what I want, and I'm going to
Celebrate.
celebrate. I had to break that cycle of let's diet and then celebrate. So this time around, when I had a loss, I would look at it, I would soak it in. Um, I would do a little wiggle dance. Well, a friend of mine
Sure.
on here, we would say, do a little wiggle and move on. Next,
I love it.
little celebrate, and that's
Next
it.
thing.
So I really
Yep.
learned to just really hone in on that, and I learned that data is a good thing, and it's not always
Yep.
the scale is the enemy. No, the scale is just the truth teller, and if it's
Yep.
not saying what you want, be curious as to why. Why isn't it saying what you want it to
Absolutely.
say? It's not just, well, that's it. Well, no, let's dig a little deeper.
Right. No, I think that's that accountability factor that, and I always say that too, is because some folks, I work with clients that, they like food logs or they don't like food logs. And either way, it doesn't matter to me. I want the person to find that it's either helpful or if it's not helpful, okay, we figure something else out. But the logs, I say the exact same thing, which is it's just data. It's not good or bad. It's not happy, sad. It's just, hey, this is what I took in. This is, what my trend is. And it gives us an idea as to what needs to be adjusted. Also how I feel, oh, I felt really worn down. Well, we need to take a look and see what's going on because, we shouldn't be feeling so exhausted all the time, that you can't work out the next time,
Right.
so it's just data. And I think that's such a key piece is just utilizing it as a data point and giving
Oh
yourself
yeah,
feedback to know where I'm at on the journey.
absolutely. And another lesson, and I say this a lot on Instagram, and sometimes people get like, what? But um, I had to um, hunger. The feeling hunger is a feeling that really
Mm-hmm.
freaks people out.
Sure.
I know, I say for me too. I used to get angry when my body had the audacity to be hungry. Like, excuse me? We
Sure.
were like, we're not eating today. I don't know if you if
We
you didn't
broke
get the
up. Okay.
message, but I'm not eating today until I get really pissed off. And then I'll eat like
Yeah.
at 3. So like before I'd be like, okay, this is what I'm
Right.
gonna do before weight loss surgery. I'm not gonna eat anything. I'm gonna just like wait until I absolutely get starving. And it's around 3 o'clock. I just go crazy. I'm starving, I'm gonna eat. And then I'd
Sure.
have the nerve to be like, see, look, out of control. I can't control myself. I'm just going to eat everything. I walk around my house with a spoon and just dip into everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Sure.
starving. And that's why you're
Right.
hungry. That is a cycle that I did
Mm-hmm.
for probably most of my adult life. And it took
Mm-hmm.
to being on a surgery table and getting half my stomach taken out to understand the true lesson here. So I really had to deal with that emotion of being angry at my hunger. So instead of being
Mm-hmm.
angry, I
Mm-hmm.
decided, okay, I need to nourish my body. and I ate breakfast.
Oh, that's such an important mindset.
Have to eat
Yeah.
breakfast. I have to eat lunch,
Yep.
and I have to eat dinner, and there should be snacks somewhere in there
Mhm.
if I choose to have them, and
Sure.
I just blocked out all of these food rules that have kind of convoluted all together into this one big mishigas type of diet that people are
Yes.
following. It's a little bit of intermittent fasting
Right.
and keto and this and low carb and all of
Right.
this, and you end up really
Yep.
angry and hungry by the end of the night is really
Yeah.
what happens.
Totally.
So I didn't want any of that. I didn't want any of that. I didn't want
Yep.
to have nothing to do with it. I did not want to have any good, bad food associations attached to food. I didn't want any of it. I wanted to just have a normal relationship with food. It's something that I've never had before.
Yeah. Gosh. And it sounds like that has just I mean, you're working on that every single day, of course, but it sounds like that's something that's really a great achievement that you've had since you've had your surgery. And it sounds like you have a good relationship
Oh,
based on what you're
it's
saying.
huge, and it's a part of another reason why um, I chose to have VSG. My surgeon said, you probably have more success with RNY. And I was already like kind of scared to do the whole thing to begin with, honestly. I'm like, no, look, I said,
Mhm.
if I can't squeeze every part out of this sleeve, I'm going to squeeze it dry. I don't care what you tell me. I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. I'm not rerouting anything. I'm not rewiring. Just, just
That's
slip it
it.
out and we'll deal with it after. Just
Just
slide
slip it
it
out.
out and we'll zip it up and we'll deal with it. So, he's like, well, the RNY would be better. I'm like, I'm sure it would be. I said, but you know what? I want to eventually have sugar in my life. I eventually want to have certain things that,
Sure.
I knew in the beginning that was
Yep.
not possible, but I knew eventually I'm going to want to have certain food. And I didn't want to have
Sure.
my body respond negatively to a bad food choice or sugar or
Right.
I didn't want to be physically punished for a choice that I made. Um, so that was a risk
Sure.
that I took by having the VSG because I
Mhm.
did not want to have any dumping. Um, so
Mhm.
even more the reason to get my act together and make sure that I have a good relationship with food because yeah,
That's right.
have to.
Yeah, have to. Have to. I agree. And let me ask you this, any advice that you have for someone that's maybe just kinda getting started lifting, any advice on, workouts or nutrition or anything like that?
Nutrition, protein focus, focus on your protein first. Find a carb that you can tolerate, that you enjoy,
Mhm.
that you don't get freaked out over, that maybe you can introduce slowly. Um, and, keep your fat lower. I mean, not too low, but, on the lower end. And
Yeah,
I'm not talking about a keto fat gram content.
right.
That's not going to work. If you're going to increase your carbohydrates because they're going to start fighting with each other. And honestly, I would, if they want to start lifting, hire a personal trainer. Hire
Yeah.
somebody that knows what they're doing. I would ask to see before and afters. I would ask to speak to previous clients to see how their experience was with you. I would ask
Yep.
who is your most experienced with a larger person and who
Sure.
understand functional movements where they're not going to have,
Mm.
someone who is clearly, obese and has mobility issues already, jumping up and down when you shouldn't be doing that
Right.
because you can definitely hurt yourself. So someone who is
Yep.
mature in that respect and that will take the time to
Mhm.
really teach you, not just throw a workout plan at you because anyone can do that. You can go online and do that.
Yes.
Someone that shows you
Absolutely.
correctly how to move and how to do the movements safely. Safely is
Mhm.
first and foremost. Understand how to move. The weight and how much you lift will come in time, but you want to
Yep.
establish good um, form in the beginning. Because if you learn how to do something the wrong way in the beginning and you continue doing it the wrong way, it's a really hard thing to undo. So that is really the number one, is hire someone that knows what they're doing. And if you can't hire somebody, then like physically, then reach out to like someone on here or a coach, or to me, even my husband has helped a bunch of people in the community as well. But
that's
it's
awesome.
really, really important to do it the right way so you don't hurt yourself.
No, I totally agree with you, because I mean, obviously, if you get injured, you're not going to be doing anything, right? So it's good to have a good base, just like with nutrition, a good base, and building that
honestly,
over
just
time.
start. Like if you want to lift, that's great. Just a walk. Like seriously, just start walking, and keep a commitment to something not so grand as lifting weights and being all buff. Like if you can build a habit of keeping that commitment of walking, that's half the battle.
Yeah, that's so true. Gosh, thank you so much. You had such helpful advice that I think is so applicable to people in any phase of their journey after surgery. And I so appreciate that. Can you tell the audience where they can find more about you, or can contact you if they have questions?
You can just DM me on Instagram. So Crunchy Sleever. And we might be relaunching some training and stuff next year, so you can keep a lookout for that. I'll post that on my page. We have done before. It's just time and busy, and we have stuff going on. So, but you could just reach out to Crunchy Sleever on the IG. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'll put your information in the show notes too. I'll put your Instagram handle that people can just click on in the show notes for this episode. So thank you again so much. I appreciate your time and all your advice. It's so helpful.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kim. And anytime, this was so much fun. And I love you. And I'm so glad that you're in this space. You're so needed. And I just wish you all the best, and to keep growing and getting that message out there. I'm so happy to have you here in this space. I just love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. And I was just going to tell everybody, if you want to watch this full episode, you can actually see it on my YouTube channel. There's a full recording video of our podcast. It is on my YouTube channel at Active Bariatric Nutrition, and you can subscribe to it. That way you'll know when there's new videos and new podcast episodes. I typically do a podcast episode every Monday. You can also find me on Instagram at Active Bariatric, on TikTok and Facebook. And if you'd like to learn more about my one-to-one nutrition coaching services, just go to my website at www.activebariatricnutrition.com and schedule a discovery call so we can get to know each other a little bit better. Thank you so much for tuning in today, everybody. I really appreciate your time. And guess what? We'll do this again next week. Talk to you guys then. Take care, everybody.